Everybody well?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Okay. So I see most of the Unit 10 and you are also in here. So, all right. Okay. So, before we begin, let me just bring out the chat over here. Okay. I have a few questions I want to ask you before I start today's lecture. Okay. So if you can just answer me from here, either you're number 1, number 2, or number 3. Okay. 1 is have heard of COVID. 2, have used COVID. 3, COVID certified. 4, ITIL certified. I just get some responses if some of you fall into any of these categories. Or number 5, never heard of COVID. Never heard of COVID. Okay. I just get some responses on how many of you? It was great to get responses. Okay, 1, 5. Yep. Wonderful. Okay, keep the responses coming in. Okay, it's okay. No right or wrong answer. I'm fine with any of it, any of the options. So there are 5 options. So yeah. Okay. All right. Have heard of COVID, have used COVID, you're COVID certified, or you're ITIL certified, or never heard of COVID. Okay. So I do get some responses here. Very good. Okay. Now let me just share my screen and do let me know if you can see it. All right. Share. Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes, miss.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. I can see some chat coming in. Yes. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Now I'm going to play the slides. Okay. So I hope you can still see it. Yeah. Okay. Can I begin now? So can I start? I think some of your friends are already coming in. Was 48 of you. There's supposed to be about 80 of you here. All right. So, okay. So I look at the responses and most of the responses saying either 1 or 5. Okay. So, okay. Never mind. Good. Okay. So we're in this together. Okay. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a little bit of my knowledge on what I have experienced before in IT governance best practice. Okay, so the past 2 weeks we have been sharing about data governance. We've been sharing about data breach. And last week, I think we also went into data security, right? So that part is on data governance. So there's one more part in your program, whether you're taking MBA or you're taking MIT or you're doing your PhD. So you have to know that other than data governance, there's also another part that we are going to cover in this class, which is IT governance. Okay, so IT governance is a little bit higher than the concept of data governance. So IT governance looks at the implementation of IT as a whole in the entire organization. So for some of you who are taking MBA, and now that the digitalization is moving forward with having every single business unit to actually implement some form of IT, or you're actually using some systems in any of your business units. So you are somewhat also involved with how IT is being implemented in your organization. Okay, so let's talk about IT governance. Okay, where was I? Right, IT governance. So hang on. Okay, so there are 5 main focus areas in IT governance. Okay, when we talk about governance, governing and management is 2 different concepts. Okay, governance is to have policies and standards, and how you actually follow or comply to all these policies and guidelines that has been established. But management is to how to manage IT, how you implement IT, how you collect your requirements from your users. Yeah. So in IT governance, there are 5 main focus areas that you have to understand, and it is usually not far away from these 5 concepts. So there are value delivery and risk management, which is an outcome. Okay, I will explain in detail on what each of these means in the next slide. And there are also drivers. So when you want to do IT governance, you should also have drivers that actually push the IT governance to happen in your organization. So there's strategic alignment, there's resource management, and there's also performance management. Okay, I'll explain in detail each and every one of them in the next slide. Okay, so strategic alignment, let me get my pen, blue pen here. Okay, so strategic alignment is linking business and IT plan. Okay, so defining and maintaining, validating the IT value proposition. So aligning IT operations with enterprise operations. So strategic alignment is a huge concept in IT governance. What happens is that most of the time, when we are a business graduate, for example, or we are engineering graduates, but at one point, we come to a level where we are at the management level. So for example, after a few years of being a manager or an executive, now you come to a point where you become managers, okay? So when you are managers, you have to understand when digitalization happens, when IT systems is in request or in demand. So we need to understand both sides of the understanding. For example, the business people may have a different idea on what IT should provide them, but the IT department may have certain levels of capabilities that they can do in order for them to execute the IT system for you. So this misconception on what IT is supposed to provide will cause you your strategic alignment. It will cause strategic misalignment. Okay, so because the company has set a certain business objective or certain goals that the organization has to achieve after certain years, but now that there's a miscommunication between your business people and your IT people, so that causes a misalignment between these two parts. So IT governance is actually put in place in order for us to reduce this miscommunication. So we have better strategic alignment, and in the end, both parts can actually speak the same language and achieve the desired goal. All right. Next focus area for IT governance is value delivery. So what can your IT bring to the organization? If we want to do digitalization, what sort of process are we digitalizing? Are we going to provide better value for that person to do better job? I think most of organizations of developing countries, like Malaysia, like Indonesia, like Korea, Korea is already a developed country, of course. At one point, they were like us. So we still have levels of people whose job is actually very much involves manual processing. Okay, so in Malaysia, still, there are some processes that use papers. We are trying to go forward with paperless, of course, but there are certain organizations, unfortunately, government organizations or legal organizations, where the hard copy papers are still very, very much in place. So you have clerks, you have executives, you have administrative assistants whose job is very, very much involved with handling so much papers, so much manual processing. So in the end, when we introduce an IT system to them, how is this IT system actually providing value to their work? Okay, so how is it that their task is being assisted with this job and is actually giving the company better efficiency? So that's value delivery. Okay, then another part of governance is to talk about risk. Risk is always an important element in governance because you want to make sure that your senior corporate officers understand the clear risks that IT will actually bring into the organization. So the responsibilities, the operations, how do you safeguard your IT assets? How do you do disaster recovery? Okay, so for example, it's raining very heavily every day in Malaysia right now. I'm not so sure about in Jakarta. Is it? All of you are probably in Jakarta, I think. Yeah. So in Malaysia, it's raining almost every day. And today it rained in the morning. It rained at night, in the evening. So there are some places around my area where I'm living. It's actually flooding. Some areas are flooded, especially areas which are quite near to the river. All right. So somehow I'm trying to relate this to disaster. Okay, so if you are operating a data center, for example, all right, so what are the criteria that you must choose in order to implement these IT systems there? And what sort of risks are we going to have to address if so happen our data center is actually placed near a area which actually leads to a lot of disaster? So there's always a key characteristics in how you want to choose a place where you want to do disaster where you want to set up your data center actually. So risk is very much important to understanding how you want to govern and also implement your IT. All right. How you make sure that there's continuity of operations. How do you mirror your server? When the server is when the server breaks down, for example, when the server hangs, how do you ensure that there's continuous operations in your organization, that the user does not feel that there is any disruption? Okay, the system can be used as it is. If there's if there's a disruption, also perhaps it will just be like 2, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, so it can fall over to another server, for example. So those are all the risks and also continuous operations that we are going to actually list down when we talk about IT governance. Okay. So resource management is another important part of governance. You want to identify what are the IT resources and capabilities that will actually make your IT system successful. Okay, there's the people, there's the applications, right? There are the data itself, right? So that, as I show in the slides here, in the booklet. So how do you maximize the efficiency of these assets? Okay, data is now also an asset in your organization. So how do you protect them? How do you protect your people, the users of using the application, right? And how do you optimize knowledge and also the IT infrastructure, right? And where and how to outsource if you're outsourcing. Okay, do we do it in-house? Do we do it outsourced? So what is the decision when we want to do our governing structure of our IT, right? So then there's performance management, of course. Every initiative or every process that we actually conduct, there has to be tracking to see whether or not it's successful. So we want to track delivery, we want to monitor services. So there are fairly other tools that you can use actually for performance management. There's balance scorecard, of course, where you can translate your strategy into goals, yeah. Or you can also do your own measurement. Some companies, they come out with their own performance management tool. So, but today we are going to learn a tool, or I'm going to share with you a tool that I have used for my research project as well as consultancy for some of the company, and which actually covers all these 5 areas. Okay, right. So let me erase this first before I move to the next slide. Okay, right. So when we want to govern IT, right? So somebody says to you, now that we have so many IT systems in place in your company, we have this system, that system, this unit has this system, this department has this system. So how do people request for change? How do people request for new system? How do people know that our IT system is actually working? So how do we know that? So in governance, there are best practices that we can follow. So these organizations have come up with a lot of best practices and standards that we can follow so we can see where we are. Okay, so the point of having good governance is to ensure that you want to be where you want to be, the vision, the direction on where we want to be in the next 4 or 5 years, for example. So in order to do that, we have to know where we are currently. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? So those are the three most important questions in governance. Where are we now? Where do we want to be, and how do we get there? So these best practices will give you somewhat an indication on where you are right now and how you're going to get there, and also trying to bring you to where you want to be. So the first one that we are going to touch on today is COVID. I'm not going to touch about all the best practices that we have in here, but we are going to cover one, which is the first one, which is COVID. That's why I asked some of you if you are familiar with COVID. I'm sure the answers are 1 and 5. So, okay, it's okay. Never mind. So I'm trying to explain. So if I do not make it so clear to you, I will try to explain further. All right. Okay. So COVID, it stands for control objective in IT, I think. Yes, control objectives. All right. So it's let me get my pen. Hang on. Okay, so the first one, oh, my pen is missing. Okay, there it is. Okay, so COVID, it is collections of best practices for companies who want to know, how do I manage all my IT implementation? Okay, so whenever we talk about governance, it doesn't run far away from audit. Okay, so governance and audit will have a similar, pairing sort of structure. Okay, so when we want to know where we are and how do we get there, there's no other way than doing an audit exercise, a measurement exercise to our own organization. Okay, so when we want to do audit, we need to have certain elements, correct? So we need to have certain controls on what makes an IT successful. Okay, and then people from the IT Governance Institute actually come out with some guidelines and also some targets or some measurements for users and auditors to use in order for you to check where you are in the organization. Okay, so other than COVID, there's also another one which is called ITIL, which is why I asked you just now. Okay, so ITIL is called the IT Infrastructure Library. Okay, ITIL is for IT Infrastructure Library. Okay, this one, yeah, the one over here, right? So it's also similar to COVID, okay, but it focuses more on IT service management. What does it mean by IT service management? For the units who are actually providing services to other people. For example, help desk. Okay, people who are doing help desk, people who are customizing systems for users. Okay, so those people are providing services to customers. Yeah, so IT service management, or ITIL, is more on trying to give a certain maturity level to people who are responsible for IT service management. Okay, a little bit more different than COVID. COVID is more comprehensive, if I may say so. Okay, so there's also other guidelines. For example, we call it in Malaysia here ISO. Okay, I think it is pretty standard because it is an international standards. I'm sure in Indonesia also, some organizations or some places would also use ISO as their standards, yeah, for them to comply to a certain level. So people who are responsible for information security usually refers to this ISO. So yeah, ISO IEC 17799. Okay, but then this only talks about an area within information security, so not IT implementation as a whole. All right, and there's also other technical reports, for example, ISO IEC 1335, where this is more of a guidance also in the area of IT security management. So in governance, in IT governance, we're not only focused on data security, we're not only focused on IT security, and we're not only focusing on service management, but we're looking at everything as a whole. How are we doing as an organization who's implementing IT, right? Okay, so here's another one, which is an ISO standard, where it is also the evaluation of IT security. So more or less, the ones that relates to the international standards of ISO is more relating to the evaluation of IT security. Okay, right. And these are some of the others which are not so popular, but some companies do use them. Okay, so there's NIST, there's also COSO. Yeah, COSO is a committee for sponsoring organization trade risk commission. So this is more on trying to improve the way of controlling enterprises. Yeah, if you would say if it's more closer to corporate governance, I would say so as well. Okay, not so much of IT governance. So this is usually a question where companies will ask. So there's so many guidelines, so many processes. So now we need to put something in place. Our IT is all around. Our IT is all over the place. How do we govern? So which one do we adopt? How do we know which one suits best? Okay, so this is always a question. So there's no one size fits all. Okay, so bear in mind, IT governance, there's no standard practice which says, for education, you adopt ITIL. Or for education, you adopt COVID. For telecommunication, you adopt ISO. No, there's no such thing. Okay, so it is up to the Chief Information Officer as well as the strategic unit and also the quality assurance unit to decide and study what's going on in the organization. And you can also do a match of multiple framework. You can pick some of the measurements from COVID and some of the measurements from ITIL, which you find suitable for your organization. And then you can also have a little bit of IT security from the ISO. And that brings out the whole governance best practice for your company. All right. Or you can do ITIL and CMMI, for example. So some of you who are doing software development, perhaps you're more familiar with CMMI, but those who are not, CMMI is also a maturity assessment model, especially for measuring capabilities, yeah, in the organization. Right? Okay. So why do we use governance for? What's the purpose? For what? Yeah, why do we want to have standards and practices? Now, I know some people are very annoyed, yeah, when they get to do audit, all right, or when they are audited. So some of you who are working, yeah, I think some of you here are also working in some organization, some company. Some people don't like the audit week. Okay, why? Because auditors tend to want to, we feel, okay, because they're actually just doing their job, but we feel the auditors are trying to find fault, yeah, trying to find our fault. But no, actually, if you say that your organization has reached a certain standard, yeah, so there must be a proof that, okay, you have reached this standard. All right, so to do that, we are supporting governance by trying to provide a proper policy and proper framework, yeah, for the organization. We are trying to enable process ownership. Okay, we're trying to put clear responsibility and accountability, right, for IT activities. This is the most important one when I mentioned about strategic alignment just now. So we're trying to align objectives with business objectives. Okay? Set the priorities and allocate your resources correctly. Okay, so if you don't have all that, how do you ensure there's investment? Because at the end of the day, what's important is what's written in the finance balance sheet, yeah, bottom line, the value there. So how do we have return on investment on the IT that we have spent? On the amount of money we spend on developing that system, how do we know that we have return on investment? All right. So you want to make sure with governance also, we have actually identified all the significant risks. Okay. And we have identified them and we are being transparent to our organization and our senior management on what is the responsibility, on what is the risk that will be involved. Yeah. How do we assure that it's not going to happen again? So all this is a role. So also what we do with governance is to ensure that we have enough resources. Okay, and our resources are efficiently organized. This is very important. Not only that we feel that we should have resources, but we should also feel that we have resources which are efficiently organized. Okay, there's no point having so many staff in one department, but out of 5 of them, only 2 are actually efficient, and the rest of the other 3 are. There's a saying in Malaysia here. We say we hire some people just to be postmen. You know what's a postman? Oh, you can answer through chat, of course. Yeah, I don't know if Indonesia still have postmen. Okay. What is it? Doctor, I heard it from you when I was taking IT governance in my master. Yes, thank you. You were in my IT governance class. Okay. So a postman, I think some of you who are much older generation, you've probably seen them, they deliver letters. So some people, unfortunately, who have been hired in organizations, they don't just do their tasks, but they delegate tasks, and the delegation happens every day, which people gets tired of it. Okay, so those kind of resources are not efficiently being used. Okay, so you don't get paid just for being a postman. Somebody gives you a job, you pass to someone else. Okay, you don't do that. So if that happens, so that shows that the resources have not been efficiently organized. So what their tasks are is not properly being managed. All right. So there's also another part in governance where you have to make sure that their critical activities can be monitored. This is also another important element in governance, monitoring. Okay, when you have IT in place, you have to monitor how the IT is doing. You don't just develop system for someone, or you use the system and put them in place, and you don't even know how efficient the system works. And the users also do not complain. And what they do is, oh, well, that's been there for quite some time. We just live with it. We just use it. And then in the end, we still use our Excel, for example. Okay, so if that is what your user is telling you, or you yourself are saying that in your department and using that system, so that means your organization has not been monitoring how your IT activities is actually been going on. Okay, right. Okay, so next we are going to talk about the uses of standards and practices again, where you want to make sure that when you have IT in place, there's clear business related IT objective. You define your services. What sort of services are we providing to our customers? And this is very important in governance as well. SLA. Can someone type me in the chat? How or what is your definition of SLA? Someone share? Anybody? Anybody would like to type in the chat? Okay. What does it mean by SLA? Why is SLA important? To some of you who have been working, or to some of you who have heard about it. Right. I see some answers coming. Yes, service level agreement, SLA. So why is SLA important? Can someone type me the answer if you're shy to turn on your microphone? Is anybody working in a department or in a place where SLA is so critical? Anyone? No? Nobody? You have not heard of SLA? Okay. Okay, I'm going to explain to you about SLA. All right. Seems like nobody is. Okay, so SLA is especially important, especially for those who are involved with service management. Okay, so if you relate that to IT, it would be help desk. Okay, if you relate that to business, it will be people who are working in the customer service management. Yes. Hotline commitments. Yes. You, in an SLA, you list down what are the commitments and what are the services that you are going to provide, okay, to your users, to your customers also. Okay, so you are going to say, because I have worked in help desk before, many years ago, and also we provide services. So in help desk, there are few levels of services. So in help desk, there's first level, there's second level, and there's also design level. Okay, so the first time when you pick up your phone and you call the customer service, that is the first level. Okay, so first level will ask you, welcome to whatever, how can I help you or whatever. Okay, may I know what your problem is? So they start writing down the problem. And when you say, I cannot access this, I cannot open this, my this one is hang or whatever, lags or whatever. Okay, so they try their very best to solve your problem. Say, for example, if they can't solve the problem, so they'll tell you, let me escalate this to my second level. Okay, so first escalation will go to second level, and second level will try to solve your problem. However, if second level cannot solve your problem, if it's too critical, then it will escalate to the design level. However, if the second level chooses not to solve your issue, but it can be solved in the second level itself, for example, so you have breached the SLA. Okay, because you are supposed to, for example, in the SLA has been set that whenever any problems escalated to second level, you are supposed to solve within 48 hours, for example. So if you don't solve it within 48 hours, there will be penalty. Same goes to server. When we want to access server from the IT side. Okay, so IT department will make an SLA with you as a user of the application that the most critical application will run 24/7. 24/7. What does it mean by 24/7? 24/7 means 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, meaning the server is not allowed at all to hang or not allowed at all to disrupt. Okay, and more critical, if a company is so bold and so confident of their system, they will use this word, I'm typing it in chat, I'm 99.9%. Any ideas what that means? I'm 99.9%. Anyone has any ideas? What's uptime 99.9% means? Real time. Yes, always up and running. Okay, so meaning no interruptions at all. So server has to be up 99.9%. If, however, one day there is going to be, something happened, and then the system is disrupted, that company has to pay the users certain penalty if they don't keep their server always up and running. All right, so that is what we call SLA. So in governance, SLA is very important as well. So you want to deal with your customers and make sure that they understand the service level that you're providing. And we monitor that as well through governance, all right? Other than that, we want to make sure that if you have independent party, there's going to be assessments, there's going to be audits. You actually review all your contractual commitments and you provide any form of certifications or confirmation, right? Okay. Other than that, this is also an important concept in governance, what we call as continuous improvement. Okay, the point of having audit, the point of having measurement is to actually have continuous improvement. We want to improve. How do we improve? We check our maturity. Okay, the higher the maturity, the better your process is. All right, so there is an element in COVID as well that we try to actually analyze and see how our maturity is. What is our maturity in the organization? What is the assessment, right? To do that, we have to also understand the gap analysis. Okay, what is the gap? What is the gap then? It is where we are currently and where we want to be. So that's the gap. What's empty there? What's going on in services? What's going on in IT development, for example? So where is the gap? And we benchmark against something. So there is a best practice, there is a level. So we are trying to benchmark against that. So then there's avoidance of reinventing already good approaches. So if you know one of these saying where they go as reinventing the wheel, so we do not want to do that when we do governance. Okay, we do not want to reinvent the wheel. Whatever that has been good, we are going to adopt. Whatever is not, so we are going to leave it as it is. Oh, sorry, whatever is not leave it as it is. Okay, whatever is not, we're trying to do continuous improvement. Whatever is good, we leave it as it is. Okay, and try to see where we can do better improvement. Okay, so as a framework for audit and assessment, governance is also following a certain framework. for audit and assessment. So the objective is mutually understood. Okay, the business people, the IT people, you both understand both criteria, and the benchmark to justify any weakness. Okay, you benchmark on certain, because sometimes we do go out to another company, for example, to benchmark ourselves with a different company, but we don't come back and evaluate ourselves and to see where we are. Okay, we have the benchmark, we have the guideline, but we need to also evaluate where we are to see how well we're doing in the organization. Okay, right. Okay, next. Okay, this is COVID. All right. I actually have something I want you to watch for about 2 minutes, but I don't think I want to run it here. I'm sure you have your own. Oh, sorry. This guy, what is this? I'm sure you have your own YouTube there. So let me just copy this link and put it in chat for about 2 minutes. I would like you to try to watch this. Okay, hang on. Okay, so can everybody go to chat and just watch that for a while before I proceed further into COVID. So let's just take about 2 minutes, right? Let me just have a drink. And I want you guys to watch that for about 2-3 minutes. It's just a 2 minutes video. Okay. Then we continue. And tell me what you think in the chat after you finish watching it. And I hope I provide you the right link. Okay. So what do you think? Good organization use COVID. Okay. Anybody has any questions while you're watching the video? Are you done watching? Belum. Not yet. Okay, so that 2 minutes video is probably a general idea on what COVID is. Okay, so they put it in a more more simple explanation. Okay, so but as a master's or postgraduate student, you of course have to know more than that. It's just not just a simple 2 minutes for that. Okay, right. So can I continue? Have everyone finished watching? Can I continue? So
Yes,
this,
Miss.
okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. All right. So COVID, as the name refers to, control objectives for information and related technologies. Okay, so anyone can learn about COVID. You can even be COVID certified. That's why I asked you the question just now. Are you COVID certified? Are you ITIL certified? I am ITIL certified, but I have not taken the COVID test yet. But I have used COVID in some of my projects with the industry. But ITIL, yes, I've been ITIL certified. So if you are certified in ITIL, it's fairly easy for you to understand COVID. Okay, COVID is not new. COVID has been around for many, many years. It has started in 1995, actually, from 1995, 1996. Okay, so they debuted in 1998, where everybody started looking at it. Okay, and they come up with books and guidelines. Yeah, I used to remember studying books, physical books, ordering physical books during that time. Yeah, during early 2000s and all that. So so there's an organization called ISACA. Okay, you can Google ISACA. You can actually be a member of ISACA. So if you're more interested in managing IT, you're more interested in managing information systems, you're interested to do audit, yeah, you're not so much so as a developer or the IT department per se, so you're more involved in IT strategy these days. So ISACA will be a good professional body for you to be a member of an ISACA. So to be a member of ISACA, you will get access to all these governance and management materials, yeah, that you can actually use in your organization. So ISACA provides a platform for people who actually works relating to information systems management. Yeah, and one of the implementation of governance is to introduce COVID. Okay, so in 2007, where it started to get famous from COVID 4.1. So in this class, I am going to explain to you a little bit about COVID 4.1 and how it evolved to COVID 5, and then how it now goes all the way to COVID 2019. All right. Okay. So, so this is a history timeline. So the same, it is based, COVID is actually being developed based on these 5 strategic, all these 5 goals, focus areas, sorry, the strategic alignment, the resource management, performance management, risk management, and also value delivery. So the focus areas are almost quite consistent throughout COVID 4, COVID 5, or COVID 2019. So it is based on these focus areas. Right. So how many of you here are familiar with auditing? Can I have some answers? Oh, sorry. Can I know if any of you are involved in any audit areas, or you're just being audited? You are not an auditor. Okay. Because if you are an auditor, you are going to be familiar with this concept of COVID. Okay, so COVID, there are some governance drivers as well as elements that you would need in order for you to assess your company. Okay, say for example, there is a stage where we call plan and organize. There's another stage called acquire and implement. Another stage called deliver and support. And you monitor and evaluate. Okay, so in each of these stages, there are some elements that you are evaluated on. Okay, for example, plan and organize. What do you evaluate in planning and organize? So technically, it's about how well your organization actually does the planning and how organized they are in doing IT. For example, Do you define a strategic IT plan? Do you define the information architecture? Do you communicate with the management? Do you manage quality? How do you manage projects? Do you assess and manage your risks? So there are 10 elements here which you can evaluate your organization, plus the next stage. How do you acquire and implement IT? Do you identify automated solutions? How do you acquire and maintain applications? Do you enable the operation and use? How do you do procurement in IT? Where do you buy your servers? Where do you buy your hardware? How do you manage changes? How do users actually tell you that they want to have some changes in the IT system? Do they write a form? Do they email you? Or is there a proper help desk system that people would actually submit their change requests? So those are some of the questions that they are going to ask you to answer in your acquire and implement. Just like what the video has mentioned just now, COVID is about questions that you ask yourselves or you ask your organization, and when they provide you the answer, you give them a certain measurement score, and you see where you are right now. If the more the people are familiar with the questions that you ask, and the more they say, oh, yes, we do, yes, we have, yes, or people are so puzzled. What is resources? What is change management? What is automated solution? So there's something wrong there. Okay. And then the most important part in COVID 4.0 is this stage here, deliver and support. Because delivery and support deals with service management, how you provide service to your customers. So you define your service levels. Do you have party services? Do you do performance and capacity? How do you ensure your system security is in place? How do you educate and train users? How do you manage your service desk? Service desk is the customer service section, yeah? And then how do you manage your problems? How do you manage data? How do you manage the physical environment? How do you manage operations? Questions like this, some people would not like when you ask them, right? Because you feel that you are being cornered with certain question, but it's okay. We just want to know where we are. We just want to know how we can improve. So that's why we ask questions, all right? And the part where we ask about monitor and evaluate is, how do you do monitoring? How do you measure your IT performance? How do you ensure your IT is actually meeting compliance to the regulation of your country? Okay, so that is basically what COVID actually involves. There are questions where you choose and you think that this is suitable to ask the people in your organization, so you ask them and just to see where you are. So usually people can either do this by themselves, or sometimes you hire an external consultant to actually come in. There are pros and cons, whether you use people inside or you use consultant, because when you use people inside, sometimes you don't get the real story. Okay, you don't get the real picture on where you are right now. And when you have a consultant from outside, they are not biased. Okay, you have to make sure that you pick a consultant that is not biased, so they can evaluate you clearly and give you the hard truth. Whether you like it or not, you have to accept, because they don't really have biasness when they do the evaluation. Okay. All right. So to proceed further, COVID involves process orientation. So there are IT domains, IT processes, and there are activities as well. So these are the domains of COVID, right? Like just now, plan and organize, acquire and implement, deliver and support, monitor and evaluate. Okay. So same, only this one, I'm showing you in a more waterfall kind of look. Yeah. So from domains, you understand your process, and from process, you evaluate your activities, right? That's what COVID does. So this is a clearer one than the diagram just now. So plan and organize for COVID 4, yeah? This is COVID 4. Plan and organize, there are 10 elements, okay? Out of these 10 elements, if it fits your organization, then evaluate all 10, right? If the consultant feels that maybe one of these elements doesn't actually suit you, you don't need this, so they can take it out with justification why they want to take it out. Okay, acquire and implement, deliver and support, monitor and evaluate. All right. So the biggest one, as I mentioned to you, is deliver and support. Okay. So after this, I'm going to share with you how my postgraduate master's student actually created a project out of COVID as her final project. Okay. Now, for example, this one, I'm going to only one, yeah, to give you an example. There's so many here, right? So there's like 10, there's 7 here, then there's 13 here, then there's 4 here. So I'm not going to explain all. I'm just going to pick one. For example, DS2, Managed Party Services. Okay, Managed Third Party Services, meaning we're managing our vendors. We're managing people who give us services. So in managing party services, DS2, somehow there is also relation to other elements as well. So they took some from PO1, some of the input from PO1, from PO8, A15. So when I mention all these, yeah, PO, A1, DS, what does this refer to? It refers to this. Okay. O means plan and organize. A means acquire and implement. DS means deliver and support. Okay. So this one, PO means plan and organize. So plan and organize 1, plan and organize 8. Is there a question? I have a question. Is it okay if I'm not certified but trying to evaluate my own company? Is the result proven? Yes, because you actually went through this course. You have some knowledge on COVID. Yes, you can download the COVID framework or COVID guideline. You can go through them and you can do a pre-evaluation. You can do an evaluation in your company, of course. Yes. So then you can say you have referred. So I'm going to share with you a little bit in a little while on how my student also, who was not a COVID certified, but she actually evaluated her company using COVID. Okay. So bear with me for a little while. All right. Then I'm also going to touch a little bit on RACI. Okay, so there is a concept in governance where we call RACI. What does RACI refers to? Okay, what does RACI refers to? RACI refers to responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed. Okay, my next question, which sometimes can be your question, maybe if your lecturers want to ask you as well. What is the difference between responsible and accountable? I like to ask this question to many of my postgrads. Can some of you give me the answers? I type here, okay. What is the difference in governance, in IT governance, for example? What is the difference in IT governance between responsible, accountable? Or if someone wants to just mute the mic and answer me, responsible, between responsible and accountable. What's the reason? What's the difference? Can you provide me example? How is it that someone, for example, here in this example here, there's CEO, there's CFO, there's business executive, there's the CIO, there's business process owner, there's head of operations, but some of them are R, which is responsible, but some of them are A, which is accountable. So what's the difference between responsible and accountable? Can anyone tell me? Have any idea?
Can I try, Professor?
Yes, of course. Please.
Well, I forgot the definition, but the thing that I remember is that there can only be one who is accountable, while there can be some more than one that is responsible. So I think my definition is that someone that is accountable is someone that is on the most top of the organization, whereas the responsible one is the one who do the job or who delegates the job to. I think that is.
Yes, very good. Yes. So accountability is usually for people who are of a higher level. Okay. But with accountability, it comes with whatever happens, they have to be accountable in answering whatever has gone wrong in the department. But there can be many people who are responsible for certain activities, just like the diagram here. So you will have more R than you have A's, because A will be involved with the person who has to answer if something goes wrong. All right. Okay, I see some question in here. I have tried to use framework COBIC and the result from all MEA is negative. Okay, MEA is negative, all right. I've not exactly come across any COBIT results that are negative. I'll share my results in my research project later with you and see how you can probably see where yours actually went wrong. Okay, right. Okay, just bear with me for a while. I'm trying to explain this one. Okay, so let me just explain DS2. So DS2 is managing third-party services. So first, before you start evaluating using COBIT, you have to come up with this RACI chart, meaning you have to identify activities which are involved with these third-party services and who is involved in this area. So in this case, they have identified who are the business people and who are the IT people who would be involved in this COBIT evaluation, right? Okay, somebody also sent risk team, but the CEO may be accountable. Yes, yes, yes. For example, in my department, my manager is responsible to handle certain parts of the customer service, but when something goes wrong, as the leader of the department, I am accountable. Okay, when something huge or something big happens, I have to be accountable to answer why it went wrong. All right, so your job as a consultant, for example, when you come into the organization, you identify who are the functional people. Okay, who are they? The business people as well as the IT people. Then from the activities, you start putting in who's responsible for this, who should be informed, and who should be consulted, and most importantly, who is accountable. So that's why in this chart, as per what your friend has explained just now, there can be more R's, but there can be less A's because that A is usually for people who are in a higher role or higher ranking, right? Okay, so here comes after the evaluation, after putting in all the scores, there are tools where you can actually download. If you are an ISACA member and you are able to download the tools that they use for calculation, so the tool will also provide you with the spiderweb chart as well as the maturity model. Okay, so once you put in the scores, then they will start identifying at which maturity level are you in. All right, so what do we explain this maturity level as? So in managed party services, if the scoring is placed to 0, okay, maturity level 0, so this is really bad. Okay, level 0 is really bad, where the process is actually non-existent. This is a very, very, how would I say this? A very immature kind of organization where they just do things on their own. They just don't follow any processes whenever it's not even ad hoc. Okay, so it is lower than ad hoc. So responsibilities, accountabilities are not defined. You do not know who's responsible for this activity. You do not know who is accountable. There are no formal policies. Okay, party services are not approved, not reviewed. So whoever wants to do whatever services, go ahead. So that is non-existent, which is bad. Okay, so as a start, at least if you're a small company who's just starting to provide services to customers, at least if you're in ad hoc, that also shows some form of initiative that you want to have a process in place. Okay, although perhaps some things are not defined, so management is aware on the need to have documented policies. They understand that there must be procedures. Okay, they understand that there must be signed contracts. Okay, and there's a standard term of agreement. There's template to be used in order for you to come up with all this agreement, not just writing on a piece of paper and that's it. Okay, so then people can start doing the job. All right. Practices are very dependent on the experiences of the individual or the supplier. So if there goes the person, the manager resigns from the company and that's it. Nobody knows what the process is about. So that is ad hoc if you're at level 1. Okay, some companies who understand this reputable governance concept, most of them are probably in level 2. Okay, it is repeatable, but it's intuitive. Okay, so the process of managing or overseeing third-party service is there. Okay, the associated risk is there, but somewhat informal. They understand that it should be in place, but it's somewhat informal. Okay, the reports on the services provided are available, but somehow it's not aligned to the objective, right? So you have provided services, but your services is not exactly something that aligns with the objective of the organization. You provide all kinds of services and not focused. Yeah. So it had to govern a certain IT, you have to be focused on what is your IT service that you're providing, not everything under the sun. All right. So a good one, usually a good organization, if they reach to maturity level 3, it's already good enough actually. All right. Of course, the better one is to be at level 4, level 5, but that takes time, because at level 4 and level 5, your staff or your executives are very familiar with whatever is going on. The process is, how would I use this word? The process is assimilated in their work activity every day. Okay, so at level 3 is called define. So it's well documented, procedures are in place, it's clear, and the agreement for the provision is made. There's a relationship with your third-party service. There's a contract. There's a clear contract, clear SLA, right? The services to be provided is detailed out. Okay, what kind of services are you providing, right? And there's legal involved with your contract, your operations, and your control requirements. All right, and then your contractual terms are very, very standardized. Yeah, it follows the template of so everybody who does SLA in any business unit will follow the same template. So that shows you are in a defined maturity level, which is good. Yeah, level 3 is already good enough actually. And of course, marvelous, wonderful organizations would have a managed and measurable level, yeah, which is a maturity model level 4, and which the criteria for establishing or engagement, the scope of work are all being arranged properly. Okay, you have a proper information portal, for example. Yeah, all the processes is in place, all the standards. If let's say a new person comes in to work with your organization, all these contracts and processes are all in place in your information portal, and it's arranged accordingly, and it's easy for people to follow. So that is a level of managed and measurable. All right. And this is the superior level, of course. It is optimized. It's called optimized, where contracts are reviewed periodically. Okay, you review your contract with your customer, and then your suppliers, and the quality of service is provided. Measurements vary with business conditions. All right. Some elements of nowadays, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. Many companies these days, I'm sure Indonesia is also moving towards that, yeah, towards sustainability. So there are ESG reports that companies ask their staff to do, yeah, or whatever processes that you are actually having in place must be aligned with ESG, must be aligned with sustainability, must be aligned with human rights, for example. So companies which are at maturity level 5, usually they take into consideration all of that. How are your process sustainable? How is your process aligned with human rights, for example? So those are level 4, level 5, I would say. All right. Okay. So COVID now, just now was COVID 4. Now we move a little bit of a transition to COVID 5. Okay. So COVID 5 now have added on something else to COVID 4, which is the enablers. Okay, enablers of COVID 5 would be the principles, the policies, the framework, the processes, the organizational structure, the culture of the organization, the ethics, the behavior. All of this actually plays a very important role in governance. Okay, to understand what to evaluate, you must first understand or understand how all of these 7 categories of enablers actually exist in the company. Okay, what are the principles? What are the policies they have? What frameworks do they refer to? Understanding their processes. Yeah, understanding process itself can take few months if it's a huge company. Yeah, if it's a large company. Telkom University, for example, Uni 10, for example, right? To understand every single process in Telkom University, to understand every single process in Uni 10, that takes months to understand how it works, how it integrates between business units. What systems do you use? How does the data being transferred from one faculty to another, or what kind of data is being used, or what kind of data is being shared? So all those are in processes to understand what processes you have. And then the structure, the organization structure, culture, for example, though Malaysia, Indonesia, we speak similar language, for example, we can speak similar language. The culture is also almost alike. The food is also almost alike, but somewhat in organization, perhaps there is some different culture in an organization. All right. So we're not talking about culture as in country culture per se here. It's the working culture of the organization. So a different company which has some influence of a different culture, for example, in Malaysia, there's Japanese influence company, there is multinational company, right? There is a pure Malaysian governmental company. So these companies will have different cultures that you need to understand first before embarking into IT governance, right? The information that the company has, the services, the infrastructure, the people, the skills, the competency. So all these have to be understood first before you embark into governance, all right? So hence, they made a clear distinction in COVID 5 between governance and management. Okay, so governance will ensure that the stakeholder needs, conditions, options are evaluated and agreed on the enterprise objectives. So direction is set. Okay, so it's very different when you work in an organization where the management actually understands where the direction is going. Okay, so the prioritization, what do they prioritize? And then we know how do we actually come up with processes that actually leads to that direction. All right, and performance and compliance are monitored, especially against agreed on directions and objective. That is governance, right? You check the performance, you make sure there's directions, right? And usually in most organizations, governance is, of course, the responsibility of the board of directors. Yeah. Whereas management is different. Management is how you plan, how you develop, how you run, how you monitor certain things, how you make sure that there's alignment, how do you make sure that the direction is there for you to follow. That is management. Okay, so I hope you understand this distinction between these two, to govern and to manage, right? Okay, so as compared to COVID 4 just now, COVID 5 has come up with a more beautiful concept, something more understandable, and something that shows where the APO, plan and organize. So they add on a little bit, no longer plan and organize. If you can see here, in COVID 5, they have inserted the word align. Okay, so alignment is very important, as I said, in governance. So they have put the word align in the first box, which is align, plan, and organize. So instead of PO in COVID 4, now in COVID 5 is called APO. Okay, still there are, sorry, I think just now PO, there's only 10. So APO now have 13. You can always make a comparison between the previous one and this. Okay, so now there's more in APO. And then there's build, acquire, and implement. No longer acquire and implement. There's another thing here called build. Build, acquire, and implement. So there's BA, BAI01, BAI02, BAI03, right? Manage changes. And then there's monitor and evaluate. Yeah. MEA1, MEA2, and MEA3. Somehow, when you do COVID, okay, you have to understand, as I said, the 7 enablers just now, and you need to know if there are some of these APO and BAI or DSS is actually linked with this MEA. Okay. For the question of your friend just now, how your MEA got negative, I wouldn't want to say that your process is non-existent. Okay, maybe you should reevaluate again and see perhaps there's something wrong with the calculation, maybe, or is there some changes you made to the formula, perhaps? All right. So it's very rare that we get a negative MEA, but maybe that's something to relook back, reevaluate. All right. Okay. Okay. So how it came about to COVID 2019? Okay. So as COVID is also somewhat of a continuous improvement kind of concept. So ISACA also continuously improve their COVID framework. Yeah. So COVID 5 framework still has the influence to COVID 2019, but there are some new concepts or new elements which are placed in COVID-19. For example, they introduced the focus area. Okay? They provided a more flexible kind of framework where your focus area, you can actually choose. Perhaps your organization is under DevOps, development operations, or SME, or you're focusing on risk only, or you're trying to focus on security. So that is also another focus area that 2019 has actually drilled down. So then, and also COVID-19 will have more resources. So there's COVID 2019 framework, there's design guide, and there's also implementation. So they break it down for you to better understand how it works. Okay. However, to understand COVID 2019, you should at least have some knowledge on COVID 4 and 5. Then it's easier for you to understand COVID-19. Okay, because it's not that different, but additional things are added on. For example, this one. Okay, so COVID 5 will have 5 principles, okay, and COVID 2019 has 6. All right, so COVID 5, more focus on meeting stakeholders' needs, covering the enterprise end-to-end, applying a single integrated framework, enabling a holistic approach, and separating governance from management. That was the clear distinction they did in COVID 5. And then from that, they evolved into COVID 2019, sorry. And instead of just saying meeting stakeholders' needs, so they changed it to provide stakeholder value, to make sure that your stakeholder understands the IT provides value to them. Not just meeting your needs, but it also provides you value. Second is holistic approach. Holistic is somewhere here as well, therefore, but they reused it again. So holistic approach is also there. And then there's also a dynamic governance system. Okay, so you have dynamic in the sense that it's more flexible, as I mentioned just now. So you're more flexible to choose what are the focus area, that's one, and also what are the measurements that you want to measure in your organization. And then there's governance distinction from management, that is also similar. Tailored to enterprise needs, those focus areas just now. Also, it provides a whole end-to-end governance system, and it's no longer called IT governance. It is called enterprise governance of information technology. So EGIT, I call it EGIT. Some people call it EGIT, or whatever. So it's enterprise governance of information technology. So perhaps some of you may have heard of this before this. It's called enterprise architecture. It's called EA governance. So in COVID 2019, they coined it as EGIT, enterprise governance of information technology. So in the light of digital transformation, and technology have become very crucial in the support and sustainability growth of enterprise. So they name it as enterprise governance. Okay. So what is the benefits of enterprise governance? So enterprise governance, fundamentally, EGIT is concerned with value delivery. How much value you bring to the organization, or how much value you bring to the stakeholders. Okay. From the digital transformation and the mitigation of business risks. As I said just now, the important key points of IT governance is strategic alignment, value delivery, as well as risk. Okay, so the results from the digital transformation. A lot of companies are talking about digital transformation these days, yeah, because you cannot avoid from the um, upcoming of data analytics and use of digitalization in organizations. So companies who do not embark in digitalization or any use of form of IT, for example, so they are left out in many forms of efficiency, right? So benefits of enterprise governance would be creating value, maintaining and increasing value derived from existing IT investment, and eliminate IT initiatives that are not creating sufficient value. Why is this a concern? This is a concern because IT has been in place ever since the 90s. Remember, I showed you the history. So ever since 90s, 2000s, yeah, 2001, 2002. So somehow some organizations still use obsolete systems. What do you call obsolete system? How do we define obsolete system? Can someone explain to me? How do we define obsolete system? What is a characteristic of an obsolete system? Obsolete, I think I better type here. Obsolete system. What does that mean? Anybody, if you want to turn on your microphone also, it's okay. Obsolete system.
A system that has no longer use of it.
System that has no longer use, yes. Also system that has been developed for very long time, yeah, a very old system, yes. And somehow some companies who are resistant to change, they still hold on to obsolete systems, yeah. It's so difficult for them to change because that's how they have been working for the past 10 years. And this resistance to change is a threat to digitalization, yeah, no longer up to date. How are you going to actually have your obsolete system meet the expectation of analytics, for example, right? So these are the kind of things that EGIT is trying to eliminate, right? So if you have IT initiatives or assets or systems that's no longer creating value, nobody is using that system anymore anyways, only 2% perhaps, for example, who's so resistant to change and they still love the obsolete system, they still want to use it. Yeah, legacy system can also be obsolete if they are no longer relevant to the current use. Yeah, legacy system, if you continuously upgrade the legacy system to meet the current expectation of digitalization, then it's okay. So the key point there is value. Can it still bring value to the organization? If it doesn't, let it go. All right. Some people have problems with letting go. Governance is trying to teach you how to reevaluate and how to make cleaning. All right. House cleaning. All right. So eliminate IT or assets that are no longer in use. And then there's risk optimization. So this is addressing business risks, use, ownership, operations, or involvement or influence and adoption of IT. Okay, so when you want to adopt a new system, you have to, of course, identify the risks. And how do we optimize? How do we make better risk mitigation? What happens if there are disaster? What happens if, let's say, the users increase, right? The number of users increase. How do we cater for those risks? So that is another benefit of EGIT, right? Okay. Other than that is resource optimization. Okay, with better EGIT, when you list down your activities and you have the RACI, for example, so you know how to optimize your risk. So you ensure that appropriate people, appropriate capabilities are in place for you to execute the strategic plan, right? There's no point the top management creates such wonderful strategic plan, such vision, but people at the working level do not understand how do we actually make this objective come true? How do we execute this strategic plan? All right. So we, the ones in the middle here who understand business, who understand IT, it's our responsibility to actually look at the strategic plan and optimize our resources in it, making sure that they actually meet the strategic plan, right? And for COVID 2019, there's flexibility and openness. So the definition, the use of the design factors, so it allows COVID to be tailored for better alignment, right? And COVID 2019 is also current and relevant. So it refers to alignment concepts and how it originates from other sources as well, right? So COVID, for COVID 2019, it can either be descriptive or it can be prescriptive. This one, another question. What does it mean by descriptive? And what does it mean by prescriptive? Describe and prescribe. Usually, where do we get prescription? Can anybody tell me? Where do we get prescription? Usually, generally, where do we get prescription? Prescription. Who gives us prescription? Doctors, right? Medical. Doctors give you prescription of medication. So COVID, yes, someone inside the prescription. Yes, at the pharmacy. Very good. Doctors, yes, at the pharmacy. When you are sick, okay? So any enterprise which COVID has found not doing well, not healthy, quote unquote healthy. So we can use COVID 2019 as a prescription, okay? But in other words, because it's flexible, it can also be used as descriptive to describe, what is going on in the organization, okay? Right. COVID 2019 is the governance and management objectives of COVID grouped into 5 domains. Still the same. There's evaluate, there's direct, there's monitor, okay? So it still uses the same align, plan, and organize, APO, BAI, DSS, or MEA, but I think there are some factors which are added on. Okay, so for example, I think if you can compare, you can start making comparison. I'm not going to compare because this is an assignment I'm going to give my class. Okay, so I'm not going to do it here. You guys have to figure it out. But this is, look the same, but maybe there's difference. I don't know. You have to tell me. All right. But somehow or other, we no longer label it, but we know that. That's why I said, if you want to do COVID 2019, at least have some idea on what COVID 4 and COVID 5 is about, so that you understand what is all this APO, BAI, DSS, delivery support and services, right? All this plan and organized, okay? So that is COVID core model for 2019. Okay, so the COVID governance system for 2019, it involves same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 enablers. Okay, but the enablers may, I think, somewhat similar as well. There's process, there's organizational structure, principles, policies, information, culture, same. So that part is the same with COVID 4 or 5. Okay, now, this is the research project that I did with my postgraduate student, master's level. Okay, so she is the senior officer at the Malaysian Public Service Department. Okay, so she has about 40, at the point where she was doing her master's project with me. She is leading an IT department with 40 programmers, 40. Okay, so she has come across so much problems with obsolete systems, processes, programmers doing things on their own, retiring programmers who just keep their system to themselves, who's not delivering knowledge to the younger ones. So her idea of doing this project is to assist her department in doing an in-house system development governance framework. Okay, so one way that she realized is to use COVID. But other than COVID, there are some other elements also which she feels is important for her department. Okay, so let me first explain to you about the Malaysian government. Okay, so the government of Malaysia, they have what we call the Malaysia's National Transformation Agenda. And also in the Malaysia's National Transformation Agenda, there is a concept called electronic government. This was prior to digitalization. So Malaysian government has already thought about doing EG, That's why there's some places where they call my EG, yeah. So electronic government, in which simple terms, it means the government wants to implement IT systems instead of using forms. Okay, so the ones who are tasked to actually implement this EG is a public sector ICT strategic plan, which is developed by an organization or agency called MAMPU. I can't remember, planning unit, Malaysian something planning unit, yeah, strategy and planning unit. So it's called MAMPU, yeah. And then from this strategic plan, this is where they come up with a system development management department. Yeah, her units has to refer to all these policies and guidelines in order for her to come up with a system development management processes, for example. So that from this concept, she feels that it's important to have an in-house system development governance because it's so chaotic and it doesn't have a proper process. Okay. So first, like what we said just now, we need to understand the enablers, right? So we need to understand our stakeholders. We need to understand the culture. We need to understand the policies, the procedure, who is involved. So this is exactly what she did. So the Malaysian government has 24 ministries and has 13 states. And under the ministry, there's a Prime Minister Department, in which under this Prime Minister Department are all these agencies. There's statutory bodies, commissions, department and agencies, central agency, and this is her department, Public Service Department of Malaysia. What does the Public Service Department of Malaysia do? So managing approximately more than 1 million public servants. So anyone who is wanting to work in the government sector would have to go through the Public Service Department. Okay, so the Public Service Department manages three big systems: the generic applications, which is within the department, the HRMIS, Human Resource Management Information System. Yes, HRMIS, because it involves the salary, the appointments, the records of the government officers, yeah, government working people, all right? And there's another information called ESILA, which I can't remember what, because this is quite a long time ago. But there's one system called ESILA. Okay, so information systems applications are all these three that she has to manage, and the programmers continuously make customization to these systems. Okay. Then after understanding who are her stakeholders, now comes the problem. Okay. Now comes the problem where she feels this cartoon actually says it all, her. So for example, I need a system to record my customers' detail. So no problem, just a few quick questions. So you have IT people asking you all those questions, yeah? IT people is always like that. We like to ask questions on all the technical questions, remote or browsers, what you want interface like this, you want interface like that. And suddenly what does the business people answer? The business people just answer, just do whatever you think is best. Okay, so business people like to give you the answer. Right? And so when you give them the solution, and this is their face. All right, it's always like that. So this actually tells you on the cartoon, actually tells you about the difference between the miscommunication actually between business people and IT people, which leads to lack of alignment. Yeah, right. And then comes another cartoon which she feels very, very peculiar to her. Okay, so this is one of the cartoon that she feels is relevant to her. Maybe some of you may feel this way as well. How your customer explained to you, how the project leader understands it, how the analyst actually designed it, how the programmer actually wrote it. Okay? All concepts of miscommunication here. And how the business consultant describe it. Wow, so the business consultant always describes something wonderful to people, but in the end, the project, this is how project was documented, no documentation at all. And what the operations actually installed, just this, and the price is this. And how is it supported? No support at all. And actually, this is just what the customer needed. Okay, a very simple one. So this is like an analogy on how we actually need IT governance because of all these misconceptions, because of all this lack of understanding from both sides. Yeah. Okay, so for research, you have to come up with a problem statement. Yeah. So I hope some of you who are going through your projects, yeah, how do you come up with problem statement? Not from your own understanding and thinking. It's quite common, yeah, similar to her as well. When she started this project with me, and because this was a research project, you can't just say, I know the problem because I'm working there. I know the problem because that's what I'm facing every day. Yes, that is practical problem, but you can't make that into a research problem. Okay, to make a research problem, there has to be some study done in which we call literature review, in which you have to review journals, you have to review some of the recent papers which have said whatever experience that you are experiencing in your organization right now is similar to what has been reported in the literature. That is a research problem. Okay, so you cannot put in your research problem, it's a research project, problem statement that I face this problem, I want this, I know. Okay, so there has to be something that is written, something like this. The lack of initiative in the in-house development governance, lack of alignment, the impact of improper management of in-house development process, missed critical application deadline, malfunctioning system, and all this actually has a support from a reference to a paper or papers, for example. So many papers are saying this common problem: missed critical application deadline, malfunctioning system, unsatisfied users. Yeah, and reviews have highlighted that COVID has been adopted to be able to reduce these problems, and this is cited from somewhere as well. Okay, but however, she found that although this has been mentioned in the recent papers, there are not many evidence of implementation of in-house system development governance. Okay, that's what she found. All right, so this study is to propose an in-house development governance framework in adopting values from a governance framework, an established governance framework. Okay, so because you are trying to create this as a research project, so there has to be something that you have to have reference to. Yeah, so this was her problem statement. Right, so the objective of her research was to develop a comprehensive in-house system development governance framework or structure for the Malaysian government agencies. So these are her research questions. Okay, once you are clear with what you want to solve, yeah, the problem statement is to actually tell you what is it that you want to solve. So from that problem statement, you can come out with your research question. So these are her research question and objective. So each objective is tied to a or more than one research question. Okay, so the first one is to identify components in designing the in-house system development. So what are the available frameworks is one research question. What are the issues that they face? And how would an in-house system development governance framework actually solve the government's problem? Okay. And the second one is to explore the level of awareness. Are people in her department actually aware of the benefits of adopting in-house system development? Yeah. And finally, come out with the in-house system development governance framework. Okay, because maybe it has been decided strategically at the top level, her department is not allowed to do any outsourcing. So you have to do all systems in-house, inside, yeah, developed by all your own programmers. So that's why she require an in-house system, in-house governance system. Problem statement have to align with RO and RQ. Problem statement, your research question and research objective must answer your problem statement. Okay, problem statement is to tell what is the problem. Okay, but your research objective and research question has to somewhat answer the problem that you have stated. Okay, right. Okay, so this is how she did her literature. Okay, this is how she did her literature. First, she understood her operational definition on what is an information system, what is system development, what is system development methodology. It involves project management. What is the concept of in-house outsourcing, public service department, IT governance, and then she studied all the related framework. It is understood that she wants to use COVID as an IT governance framework, but you can't just jump into COVID and say, this is what I want to use in a research project. So in a research project, when you do your literature, if you say you want to do governance, you have to review at least more than one governance framework. Then you decide which one you want to use, or are you combining some of them? All right. You can't say in advance, oh, I'm going to use COVID. All right. For a research project, no. But for practical and consultancy project, yes, go ahead. By all means, you want to evaluate your company, go ahead. All right. Use COVID. But if you want to transfer that into a research project, it has to be thoroughly reviewed with other types of governance practices as well. Okay. Right. So then she come out with her IT governance concept. Okay, the rationale of using IT governance is because you want to solve IT resources with business goal. She paired the IT governance with a 3P model. What's a 3P model? Process, people, and portfolio. Okay, after doing her review, she feels that this is important for the case study that she's doing, okay, which is a public service department. And also the IT governance generic COVID, of course, yeah, in short. Okay, and then she did her literature review as well on the goals and also the RACI chart, the business goals, IT goals. Okay, she's got access to the tool or the application, but because this was done for quite some time ago, I'm sure you're going to ask me why didn't she use COVID 2019, because she has graduated a very long time ago. So this was done a few years back. So she was referring to COVID 4 at that time. So I think at the point where she was doing this, COVID 5 was just introduced. Yeah. So that's why it's a bit long, because she used COVID 4.1. Okay, so that's why she justified that she actually has support from the literature on why she uses COVID 4. But if you were to adopt this and to use that in your research right now, it's not possible, yeah? Because at the point where she's doing this, COVID 4 was still the most used framework at that time. Okay. So this is her proposed conceptual framework. The framework on the first side here is the IT governance framework focus area, where she focuses on strategic alignment, resource management, and then performance measurement, and then value delivery and risk management. Okay, second one is to implement COVID elements here. The plan and organize, the acquire and implement, DS and ME. So you are probably familiar with this already. The third one is to involve the system development phases, the pre-development, development, and post-development. Very simple, right? And then the 3P, the how, what, which people, which process, and which portfolio. Okay. And just to show you her method, yeah, the method that she uses in order to come up with this project. So she uses both. For some of you who have taken the research methodology, you're probably familiar with these terms. Some of you have not. Maybe this is quite alien to you lah. Yeah, so it's quantitative and qualitative. So the quantitative part, I have a question. Mixed method. Yes, she adopts the mixed method. Yes. The quantitative part is to do maturity assessment and also a short survey. She uses COVID 4.1 as a maturity assessment, and there's a questionnaire which she has developed in order for her to support the instrument or support the COVID 4.1 maturity assessment. And who are her subject? Business people, IT people, as well as technical people. Okay, this is PhD level. Yes, my student is very high achiever, very ambitious. Okay, and of course you would know what her result was when she did her Viva. She passed with flying colors, of course, because she covered every single elements of master's level and more. Okay, but no worry, No, actually, not to a point where it can be considered as a PhD yet, because there are some parts that PhD requirements that she did not meet, but she met the master's level. If you want to know that, you can email me later or come and see me. Okay. You can email me. Those of you in you can email me on how the distinction is between master's and PhD. Okay. So qualitative case study, and then all this. All right. Okay. And then she went on to, did he publish a paper? Okay, we'll see soon. I'll let you know soon. Okay. So next is the process flow on what she did. Okay. So the process flow of COVID 4.1, on which in the end, what she wants to produce in the end is just a spider web chart. Show where the company is, how the company is doing, what's the maturity level. Okay. So did she take all the COVID elements? No. Or COVID processes? No. Okay. So there are 34 COVID IT processes, 35 IT processes. Of 10, she took 8 of the planning and organize. And, for M&E, she took only 2 out of 4. And E&I, she took all. But for DNS, for DS, she took only 8. Okay, because you are allowed to actually pick which one is suitable for your organization. And you have to justify that, or you have to have that approved by the SME or the experts in the organization. Okay. Right, so what is her response? So majority of the respondents are quite familiar with the in-house development process and have many experiences, of course. More than half of respondents has no idea about maturity assessment. And based on the survey results, the DS13, managed operations, is just the highest one, I think. The DS13 is this one, yes, managed operations. The one in green is not related to her department. So that's why it's taken out. Probably because, for example, assess and manage IT risk is not done by her unit, it's done by a different unit, for example. So there's no point asking that question because somehow or other they don't manage IT risk, but the rest, yes, right? So based on the survey, which one is the lowest? All right. So to get these assessment results, as I mentioned, there are tools that you can actually download in order for you to run this and get the scores. Yeah, and the tool will actually teach you how to insert the scores. All right. So this is the target maturity level for short term and long term. Okay. So she, of course, this spiderweb, if you are familiar with spiderweb, so this is 5 levels: 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So the target of the POs 5. But the target of a short term is 3. Okay, so anywhere in between this would be very, very happy for her. All right. Okay, and then this is the current process maturity level of her unit. So from here, if the spiderweb scores actually shows you this kind of shapes, so you would know which one actually is doing well and which one is not. Okay, so you would focus more on things that actually goes more inside. So DS8 is not doing too well, PO8 is not doing too well, S2 is not doing so well, and so is the rest of the others. Okay, so it doesn't really meet the target. So then she mapped it with the target. Yeah, she mapped the results with the target. Obviously, the results does not meet the long-term target, which is all at level 5, but at least some of them cross to the short-term target, which is level 3, which is good enough, as I mentioned to you just now, right? It's good enough that they reach level 3. By having the current value of the current PSD's IT processes maturity level, top management would know what to focus on, yeah, and where they are right now, and where do you want to be. So sometimes they are so out of the line, thinking that, oh, we are already at level 5 or whatever. So this is the evidence that you show them, no, we're not there yet. Okay, we have to do something in order for us to get there. So this is the evidence that you can show your management. Right, so business people, this is the discussion that she discovered. Business people, those officers who request to use IT services, business people can fall from anyone in the PSD division, and you categorize IT people as IT managers, system analysts, and also programmers. Okay, so from that COVID results, okay, so she come out with her own framework on how it should be implemented in her department. Okay, so how does it look like? This is what she has drawn. And the ITG framework focus areas, just like her conceptual framework, is there, still there. The COVID framework is also there. What she has did is the process flow, okay, on how they relate to one another and where COVID processes should fall into her system development phases. Okay? So if it's pre-development, the plan and organize processes should be in place. When she does her development, the acquire and implement should be in place, and post-development will involve these two, deliver and support, and also monitor and evaluate. Okay, and that's the system development phases. And the 3P, the portfolios, the how, the what, the why is all on this side. Okay, this is not taken from anywhere. This is her own idea on how the in-house system development governance framework should look like and what it should consist of. Yeah, and is this supported by findings? Yes, her results on the COVID part. Okay. Right, so this is the results that she showed on which one she took and which one should be focused on. Okay, and from the framework, she brought the framework to the management level. And how do they respond from the information systems development framework? Okay, so some of them feel that goal setting and measurement requires lower attention, but the one that causes more attention is the awareness and communication, the policies and procedures. So this one has higher rank. Okay, this one actually shows more percentage of responses issues, right? And especially responsibility and accountability. Right. So as a conclusion, you are using COVID to actually find out where the organization is right now, where do they want to be, how to measure, right? You target the maturity model. Okay, you use COVID to demonstrate the scope of COVID and overall business relationships with your units, all right? And you are trying to do alignment, trying to solve the misalignment issues between business people and IT people. So hopefully with a better governing structure, with a better alignment in play, with a better compliance or the way they see the spider web on where they should improve, this would actually lower the misalignment between the business people and IT people. Okay. So the objective has been accomplished. Okay, so they are trying to adopt. All right. And limitation of this study is that there are different approaches to, there are different approaches to what COVID, the new version of COVID. Of course, I think if we were to assess it again with COVID 2019, maybe some elements would be different. Okay, sample size should be bigger. All right, this is the limitation where it doesn't really meet the PhD level. Okay, it's a master's level still. So further work can be made where COVID can be assessed in other units or other departments as well, following the same steps. Yeah. And the one who asked me a question whether it has been published, yes, there are 2 papers published for this study. Okay, so you can have my notes. I've given you the notes there. So these are the 2 papers that we have published with regards to this study. All right. I think there's something wrong with my battery. Let me check. Okay. Right. Do you have questions for me? And if you have questions, I think that's about all I would like to share today. Can you give me about 5 seconds? I need to get my cable again. Okay. Hang on before I end. A minute. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much what I want to share tonight with regard to COVID. What is COVID about? I hope by end of this lecture, you will at least have some idea what COVID is about and how it is implemented in real life. Okay, sometimes because when we do this theoretically, you don't see how it's implemented in a real organization. So I have given you an example on how it actually helps with coming up with a re-strategizing the in-house system development for a government agency. Okay, so any of you have questions for me? Do you have, what was that? Which tool did she use for analyzing the data? Which data? If you're talking about COVID, she uses the COVID tool. She downloaded the COVID tool because she is an ISAKA member. So she is allowed to download the ISAKA tool. So this is where there's a difference between PhD and masters. For PhD, you really need to use, you really need to justify what you use for analyzing the data. So she did not use the high level secondary statistical tool to analyze. She doesn't use any PLS or whatever, no. Okay, so she uses the COVID 4.1 tool, and also for the interview that she held with the management, it was just analyzed thematically using quantitative approach, the thematic approach. Okay. Any questions? People from Tell You, I hope you can follow my lecture today. If it's okay with you, give me a yes, give me a no. I hope I hope it's beneficial for some of you to get new knowledge on what COVID is about. Okay, you can do this as an exercise to any company. You can start with small company, SMEs, yeah, small medium enterprises, just to see where they are. Okay. I am sure with the advancement of technology these days, as per the limitations during the time when we were doing this research project, I'm sure nowadays you can get more places or resources where you can actually try and download the tool to do COVID evaluation. Maybe you can try. Okay. Right. So, should there not be any questions? I believe that would be heavy enough for tonight. Okay, I think the lecture is quite heavy for tonight already. So, if everyone is okay, I think, do we have the coordinator here for the attendance? Yes. Okay, I was just about to ask. Thank you very much. Okay, please fill up your attendance. I think the last next week will be another one. The attendance is very important, yeah, because we want to give you certificates and all that. So please fill in your attendance, okay? All right. So if that is all, I believe I can stop here. Would it be okay if I stop here right now for this class? Okay. Okay, no, okay, no, you want to continue? Okay, all right. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope this has been beneficial to all of you, and I hope somehow or other, if it's not a lot, maybe you can use a little bit of the knowledge that we have today. Okay, so as an evidence to my graduate school, can I just screenshot some of your faces if you are still around? If you're not doing something else, okay. Let me just screenshot for a while. Let me just find a Word document. Okay, just for evidence. Okay, so I am going to take a picture of someone here. Try to turn on cameras, yeah, everybody. Okay, it's good to see your faces for a while. Yes, okay. You look very good today, Parvin. How are you, Parvin? You look very good today. Okay, so can I get to see some faces before we leave? Yes, very good. Okay, good job. Okay, hang on. Let me just Screenshot. Okay, come turn on your cameras. All right, 1, 2, 3. Hang on. Okay, peace. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Let me screenshot. Oh, there's 3 pages. Oh, okay. Let me print screen one first. Okay. And let me screenshot another one. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And another one. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good rest. So I'll see you in another 2 weeks. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good night. Have a good day.
Thank you, doctor. Have a good night.
Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night, doctor.
Good night. Have a good day. Don't forget to fill up your attendance. Thank you.